The DraftPhysics.com video presentation. Don't need any street noises. Anyway, so physicist Michael has left a comment to my comment, which I appreciate. I always appreciate some sort of response. And so I asked a simple question. Do you really believe it takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast? Do you think that happens in reality? And I asked him, well, do you think if I narrow a stream of water by taking half the volume away and doubling the velocity, like a hose does, for example, that I have doubled the energy of the water, and that now I can hit it into a water wheel and create twice as much energy? So 2 simple questions. This is the response. Okay, so we'll see what it's in here. All right. I did point out that I don't think their theory is well evidenced and such and so forth. But anyway, my claims align with what you'll find in any physics textbook. Again, why would I be impressed by a physics textbook when it talks about wave-particle duality, spooky actions all over the place, antimatter, dark energy, dark matter? I mean, it has all kinds of crap in it that I think is complete silly crap. Absolute crap. Okay, I don't think a photon is a wave. I don't think it has no mass. I don't think any of that crap is true. I don't think electrons have no shape or size. I think obviously they wouldn't have any charge if they were of no size. If they had no size, they couldn't produce the same charge that a proton creates. So yeah, that's obviously, I think physics textbooks are religion books. They are unevidenced statements of fact. Okay, I mean, scant, tiny pieces of it looks a little bit like. This is a book about how to find Sasquatch. Okay, physics textbooks are, let's find, it's finding Sasquatch. That's what it is. This isn't science. Okay, for specifics, who cares? I have watched hundreds of lectures, as I've already stated to you. I know what's in the textbooks. So you want to keep insulting my intelligence by pretending I haven't done all those things when I have. I've spent literally, I've spent 4 years, okay, of my life essentially doing this kind of research. So don't, whatever this is, right? Even bother seeing what this stupid link is? Well, let's go see what the stupid link is. Oh, it's one of your own videos. Wonderful. With a commercial. Thanks. Which one is this? Right tool for the right job. But yeah, I already saw this video. And I said what I said to it about it, which was, this doesn't have anything to do with tools. This just has to do with math that you never prove. You come up with a number, you say it has 674 joules. Do you measure it? No. Do you prove it does? No. I mean, oh, amazing. For what principles are at play when they can be most effectively applied? I mean, this is all just bullshit here, right? Semantic word games, such as kinematics. What the fuck is that? I mean, this is just talking about Newton's laws. This is talking about what is the nature of energy in the universe. I'm saying it's really simple. Find a mass in the universe somewhere, a thing that has mass, and then find out if it's moving. There, you're done. That's energy in the universe. Something has to move. An electron has to move. A proton has to move. Something has to move, and then you have energy in the universe. All right, work and energy, conservation of momentum, conservation of angular momentum. Yeah, this is just all jargon. I know what all these things are. Okay, I've been talking about them for 10 years, and I'm basically pointing out that science stopped being rational when Newton died. Okay, that's when it just left the building as saying, caring about evidence. You didn't need to prove anything. You just need to assert it. If you had the right woman in the right dress and you wrote physicist on it, okay, you could sell it. And that's all this is about, selling ideas. It's not about proving them. It's not about doing disciplined scientific work. None of that. This isn't Faraday physics. This is deGrasse Tyson physics. Anyway. Evidences. Work and energy. So this is another link to one of his videos, I guess, right? Yeah, okay, swell. I mean, I already told you, I've watched your videos. I mean, I'm not going to watch, I don't care about black holes or the Milky Way galaxy, so I haven't bothered with those. But I've already seen these videos, you know that. What the hell is this? You want me to critique again? I actually have a response video to this very video. I found your video to be completely unresponsive to any of the counter arguments. And that's very disappointing. Momentum and kinetic energy are not comparable theories of reality. They're not compatible theories of reality. Anytime you transfer energy between uneven masses, I mean, I'm making the statement right here. It's an absolute fact. You can never say you conserve both of them. It's just ludicrous in any circumstance where you have uneven masses. Yeah, and here you are just sitting there redundantly throwing this crap, frankly. It's just crap. Where have you countered the idea that you cannot possibly conserve kinetic energy and momentum when you transfer the motion of this object to this different massed object? If I transfer the energy from this to this, I have to sacrifice momentum, or I have to sacrifice kinetic energy to conserve energy. There's no energy conservation unless one of those two things dies. How can you say or assert that anything else is true? That what I just said isn't absolutely a fact? God damn it. Anyway, Jesus. Which demonstrates a match between the work done. So this is more crap about what work is. Work is irrelevant. Work is what we call the stuff we want out of whatever happens. So something happens, all right, a donkey explodes, all right, and it knocks our water bucket, into the well, and we say, oh, thanks, okay, I didn't have to do that extra bit of work. That's what we call work. And everything else, your house burning down, some other thing happening, we don't call that work. It's a silly word in physics. Okay, so your physics says, here, I'm holding this. Your physics says I'm not doing any work. It's a dead camera, by the way, which is really irritating. They find the battery's dead finally. Anyway, so I really liked it. Anyway, you're saying I'm not doing any work. I could take 3 hours to lift it slowly up in the air. And you'd say, oh yeah, you only did this tiny amount of work from here to here. I took 3 hours to do it. Of course, I did a lot more work than here to here. Come on. That's what your textbook makes out of reality. You can't concede that's pretty inarticulate science. That it's not Shakespeare science. This isn't like perfectly well written notion of reality. And of course it's force times time, not force times distance. And the change in KE, 1/2 mv squared, to within a few percent in both constant and non-constant forces. So again, I'm sorry, it's just absolute bullshit that there's any such thing as force times distance being the truth when anything is a constant force. It just doesn't matter. Distance will be irrelevant, and time will be the only thing that matters. All that matters is how long I hold this camera up. That's what matters, is how long am I applying a force against gravity. Whether I'm lifting it or holding it, I'm doing exactly the same thing, frankly. Okay, I'm forcing it against gravity, and I'm doing work. Twice as much work when I'm moving it up into the gravity, and 1 unit of work when I'm holding it against the gravity. That's the fact, that's the truth, and your jargon doesn't change that. All right. Conservation of energy, so another one of his bullshit videos, frankly, demonstrates multiple cases of total energy of a system being conserved. So again, whatever this means, total energy. So why don't you say total kinetic energy, and then explain to me what the total momentum is doing, because you don't think momentum is energy, even though they're described and defined as exactly the same thing. What the fuck? How do you define energy? Oh, matter moving. How do you define momentum? Oh, matter moving. I mean, it's ridiculous. Involving kinetic energy, gravitational energy, and spring energy. They're not different energies. It's all just energy. You can stick a boat in a stream, or you could put a piece of dynamite behind the boat, or you could put a jet engine on the boat. You can do lots of things to create, okay, a stream, okay, that will push you. includes the cases where I demonstrate that the compressed spring launching two masses will conserve the total KE. So again, he's totally ignored every single argument I have made on this subject. Just totally ignored it. He just, and it's just so dishonest, so bullshit. I mean, I've made it as clear as I can possibly make it that you're not talking about the same thing. You cannot call it conservation of momentum, all right, when we know the spring has stored something, okay? It stores something, all right? And whether it's kinetic energy or it's momentum, you have to say it stores something called energy. That's what the spring does. So here he has an experiment, all right? He's telling me this is not paradoxical or strange or unbelievable, all right? One mass, two mass, two mass. Same exact spring compression. So I have put the same amount of force into the spring. Same force here as here. Okay, same identical force is in the spring. And I get twice the momentum here. I get, so put these at 200. All right, so these leave with 200 momentum. And 200 momentum over here, and only 100 here, and only 100 here. So you have a total of 200 momentum from the spring, same force you put in, and you have 400 out here. Okay, same exact spring compression. And he says that's conservation of energy. How could that possibly be conservation of energy? I put in 1 unit of force, whatever this force unit is, and somehow I can get either 2 units of energy out, or 1 energy out, or I could get a half, or I could get 4. So I just make these things bigger and bigger, and I get more and more momentum. I make these things smaller and smaller, I get less and less momentum. And he's saying I shouldn't have some kind of disagreement with that logic. I should say it shouldn't be possible for me to say, how is this conservation of momentum? You haven't conserved the force that went in. The force that went in can be considered either by you or by me. Your theory is this is kinetic energy stored in here. My theory is it's momentum stored in here, obviously. All right, but it doesn't matter. We both have to account for the fact that you put a unit of something in, and you can't get multiple different units out. That's not conservation. Richard Feynman knows. Well, no, you have a certain number of blocks of energy here. There's 10 blocks of energy that you put in. You have to account for the 10 blocks of energy. Where the hell are they? You can't say, well, I made 20 blocks of energy. Or, no, there was just 10. I mean, come on. I mean, it just has to do with, look, he keeps pretending momentum isn't a net thing. But you're talking about the net momentum in a system. You're talking about the net force in a system, the net energy in a system. It's just, I mean, how can you people not call bullshit? You don't see how he's evading my point? Oh, come on. Let's see. Includes cases where I demonstrate that the compressed spring launching two masses will conserve the total KE of the system within a few percent, even when you change the masses or use different masses, not conserving the absolute value of each corpse's momentum. Yeah, obviously not conserving the momentum. And you just discount that as, oh, that doesn't matter. I don't have to conserve momentum. So he is acknowledging in that little sentence that not conserving the absolute value of each cart's momentum. So he's conceding, oh yeah, I showed how I conserve kinetic energy. Yeah, I threw a momentum out, I threw it in front of the bus. So even though Professor Lewin says nature can deal with kinetic energy, but nature can't finagle momentum, apparently that textbook that Professor Lewin would write is full of shit. Newton's second law. Well, Newton's second law is stating overtly, you want to make something go twice as fast, you put twice as much force. You want something to go 3 times as fast, use 3 times the force. Newton's not saying you got to put 9 times the gasoline to go 3 times as fast, or 16 times the gasoline to go 4 times as fast. Newton's not saying that. That's not what Newton's second law says. So, you sit here and overtly lie about what frickin' Newton said. What is it other than a lie, okay, to play this game that Newton believed in kinetic energy? He didn't. He opposed it. His worst enemy in life invented this crap. That's the true story. And you don't care about that truth. You never talked about it once. You've never said the word Leibniz in a video ever. Have you ever uttered the word Leibniz? Did you ever utter the word Descartes? Did you ever utter the words drop round things into clay to prove something? No. You haven't dealt with any of the facts that are the real history of this garbage Sasquatchian theory. Oh, man. All right. Returning. Okay. Newton's second law, so we'll see. I don't remember this video. Demonstrating the net force equals mass times acceleration. So again, it doesn't really mean anything to do with this notion of acceleration beyond the fact that a change in your velocity. That's what Newton said. Okay, it equals the change in your velocity. The force equals the change in your velocity. If you don't change the mass, the force equals the change in the velocity. That's what he said. Okay. And all this, the rest of this per second shit is just that silly word talk invented in the 1800s, has nothing to do with Newton's physics. And using that to predict, again, with this nonsense word of predict, Newton didn't predict what you predict. So again, using Newton's name or using Newton's law and then pretending Newton's law implicates this nonsense is lying about Newton. It's slandering Newton. This is not Newton's physics. It's not Newton's second law. Newton's second law is not per second. That's not something Newton was dumb enough to say. Predict the mass of the cart to with 0.5%, whatever that means. Mush. Okay. Conservation of momentum, so another one, demonstrates that the direction of the momentum matters. So again, you can say it with your rickety little experiments, and what you can't show is any dramatic evidence. You can't show that in any circumstance, like bowling balls or wrecking balls or automobiles or anywhere, can you show this thing actually works. And yet you play this game like, okay, because I made this cart do this thing that I say it did, which makes free momentum, like your experiment where you got different values from the spring. Now let's all understand, even though they pay $400 for these stupid little carts, they're shitty little plastic crappy carts, and they have a little plastic crappy spring in them. Okay, and so we're going to define physics and the truth based on the reliability of some crappy 48-cent spring. All right, which is included in Newton's Principia. Okay, so again, it says U and shows conservation of total momentum in both elastic and inelastic collisions to high precision. So more of this high precision crap. Okay, when you can't even answer the simple question, does it take 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast? Where's your precision measurement of fuel consumption in an automobile? I mean, it's just such a lie. They do the same rickety, cruddy little narrow experiment under these narrow little conditions with carts engineered for the very purpose of doing this rickety, crappy experiment. This free momentum experiment, by the way. Oh, so annoying. All right, I'll be doing some kinematic ones in the... You know, again, I could go right back to Newton again, and we could go back to Newton's cradle. So in all the hundreds of years where Newton's cradles have been around, right, it's been hundreds of years now, we don't have any evidence that if I use a Newton's cradle to duplicate your experiment, that is, I just crash a 1 mass into a 2 mass in a Newton's cradle, that I'll get free momentum in the 2 mass. That the 2 mass will leave with 133% of the momentum that the 1 mass hit with. Do you have any evidence it happens in a Newton's cradle? No. None. Should it happen? Yeah. It's an elastic collision. It's a perfectly elastic collision, by the way, right? It's almost as perfect as you can get. And the thing will bounce back and forth for quite a while. So what's your explanation for why we don't have the video of the Newton's cradle creating the free momentum? Shit. High precision. My ass. High arrogance. That's all you have. Big buckets full of arrogance. Lots of talk, no walk. Okay. I'll be doing some kinematic ones in the conservation of angular momentum. Whatever this will be, right? This will be some other thing with 3 pulleys and 17 thises and whatever that's to sit there and distract you from the truth. Will be central to the lever problem. Now, there's no frickin' angular momentum issue at all. The lever's angular momentum is the law of the lever. There is no angular momentum problem. It's simply just as much. It's just as flat and linear as Hooke's law. There's no angular momentum issue that implicates per second or squared velocities. Okay. In all these cases, I have provided experimental data. So again, more claims that your data is unimpeachable, that I cannot possibly impeach your 49-cent spring. Okay, your little plastic, crappy, shitty little cart spring. I can't possibly find anything to do with that maybe not being a perfect conveyor of energy between 2 objects. That maybe that's not really that good of spring. Okay, back up my claims, and your response has been nothing but straight up denial. So fuck you. Okay, it's been direct accusations that the experiment's a pile of shit. Okay, and the fact is that it's not a reliably done experiment. I've extensively analyzed Professor Lewin's experiment, and I've challenged you to go ahead and explain how you can tell me that those 2 carts were 2-to-1 mass ratios, when it seems quite obvious from the blobs of clay on the smaller cart that it was weighted. Okay, it was made heavier for the purpose of the demonstration, that the experiment had nothing to do with doing physics or science. It just had to do with verifying the Bible. It was a smoke and mirrors experiment. It wasn't science. It was an insult to science. Let's see. Has been nothing but straight up denial, claims that the motion sensors are giving unreliable readings. I'm claiming that something's broken. If you're creating 2 different amounts of momentum from the same spring, and that's what you did in the same series of experiments, then something's wrong with your experimental data collection device. Something went wrong. I demonstrate their accuracy. So again, he really won't pay any attention to the argument, which is what you need is some other experiment to confirm this bullshit experiment. You need some other way to confirm velocities, confirm that these things are reliable, and that you have actually good data. That's what you need, and you don't have it because you don't care about this elemental physics being strong and well evidenced. Because it's just a religion. You want to believe in this Sasquatch. And so any kind of fuzzy photo is all you need to go with it. I'll go with it because it's a, look, it's a guy. Okay, you can see the zipper in the back of his suit. So what? Let's just fuzzy that out. We'll just Photoshop that and everything will be just fine. But yeah, that's what it looks like to me, frankly. You're trying to get these results to come out of these experiments. These experiments are naturally produce them. I can show you a high school teacher, right? A woman doing the exact same cart experiment on an air track, all right? And she's not doing it on purpose. She's just using a demonstration, right? So she's not collecting the data, but the fact is you can see it. And you can collect the data, and you can see she doesn't get any free momentum in her experiment. All right. I demonstrate their accuracy, blah, 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 blah. Exceedingly unlikely to give inaccurate data. So, yeah, so it's the spring. Something went wrong is the simple point, okay? If you can't concede that something went wrong, the same force is in the spring and you get different amounts of energy out, and by energy I mean momentum, total momentum, you have an explosion that exploded more because you put heavy things in front of the explosion. That's your argument. The explosion did more work, okay? The movement of the carts is work. It did more work, okay, merely because you put heavier carts next to it. Explain how that's consistent with any notion of conservation. Shit. Anyway. an ad hominem attack. So he says, what's an ad hominem? Where's that? There's nothing. I'm attacking you just like I would attack Leibniz for proposing a theory with no evidence. He had no evidence, you know. He didn't show up and give demonstrations of kinetic energy working in the world somewhere. He didn't go to whatever they call the you know, Grand Central Station of physics in England there, the whatever they call it. It's the something well, what anyway. He didn't go there. He didn't do a demonstration and show, look how kinetic energy works. Look how it's mv squared. Look at all the per second and per seconding happening. He didn't do any of that shit. All right, anyway. Who's failing to focus on the physics? Who's failing to do what science is, which is you don't make claims, you provide evidence. Good lawyers provide evidence. Good lawyers argue real evidence. Okay? They don't argue some little fringy, you know, barely visible, fudgy fingerprint and say, there, that proves it. That's all the evidence I need. I need a lot more than you, obviously. As for your 12 videos, okay, let's see what his excuse is. I've watched the first 10. Here's my assessment. So he's not going to respond to anything in those videos. I can make a video and go into more detail if you want. Yes, that's exactly what I want you to do, is to explain anything. I want you to take words that I speak in those videos and explain how those words are not consistent with proven facts. Not stated facts, but some sort of proven fact. If you describe an experiment, what the hell is this now? If you describe an experiment and you want to think and what you think will happen, but I don't do the experiment, it's nothing but an assertion. So again, what is this about? That's not what the 12 videos are describing. They're describing theoretical circumstances. I mean, thought experiments in some cases, but that's just as valid. There's nothing wrong with a thought experiment. I can't build a spaceship. So, I mean, all we can do is speculate about how space works based on what the spaceships we've seen in space do. Now, I'm asserting that if I'm sitting in a spaceship and I throw 2 liters of water out one side of the ship, and I throw it, you know, going 1 mile an hour, and I throw a dime out the other side of the ship going 1,000 miles an hour, I'm not going to change the direction of my ship. Where's the kinetic energy? One of them has 2,000 joules of energy, the other one has 2. Why didn't my ship turn? If kinetic energy is real, why doesn't my spaceship turn? Now, that's not a complex. All you have to do is explain why it doesn't work, why kinetic energy doesn't happen in space. All right. As best described by Hitchens Razor, I don't know who that is, but who cares? That which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Well, fine. Then I can dismiss everything Leibniz said can be dismissed. Everything almost Charlotte said can be dismissed also, because her experiment can be debunked. And that's all she had, is clay experiments and sand experiments. So, I mean, I can debunk the origin of this silly theory easily by your own Hitchens Razor bullshit. I only care about your claims if you can demonstrate that they correspond to reality. So again, you're just finding evasions. They're 5-minute videos where I explain how something works. That's it. All you have to do is explain where I said something wrong, where I claimed a thing that doesn't happen. Fucking evasion. If my upcoming lever video was just, this is what I think will happen. So again, you want to nitpick about this shit? Well, I just proved your statement about how the lever works wrong. So your whole model must be wrong, and you must be completely full of shit, because your prediction that only half the energy would go into the other mass is completely obviously wrong. It's way the fuck off. I've already proven that. Alright, therefore my model is correct. I don't actually do experiments, you would rightly dismiss that. Again, we shouldn't even have to do these experiments, and that should be part of this argument. You won't even concede that your physics has completely dropped the fucking goddamn ball. That this is disgusting, that after 300 years of preaching some truth, you still don't have any fucking goddamn evidence to speak of. Any good evidence that takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. Nothing. You have no evidence. It's disgusting that you can talk so arrogantly with nothing. You're sitting there with no evidence, and then you will cite Hitchens' razor when you have failed that test dismally. All right. So let's see if he gets to any of the arguments in the video. Will he get to any of the arguments in the video? Oh, I don't think he will. I'll have to take a pause. Alright, just for the sake of argument, he's going to argue that none of these videos are about experiments that have actually already been done multiple times, and that it's their physics who hasn't done any of the measuring or any of the data collection. So let's just understand that. So the 3-ball bounce one, that's definitely one where you have to have really exact measurements of exactly how much the original ball bounces back. But it can be clearly deduced that a large percentage of the mass has been converted into very high velocity mass, and that fact means the v² number means you're probably not going to be conserving the momentum. Okay. There's it's not a practical fact that you can conserve both, and if you're going to have those higher kinetic energy values, you're going to have to sacrifice momentum. Well, you're basically making free kinetic energy, so momentum will be conserved if you actually do the measurements, and kinetic energy won't be. All right. So and the other one is 9.8 meters per second. Okay. I mean, that one's just so obvious that how could you argue I don't have evidence? We all have evidence that 4 times the height creates twice the time and the force. So that's a known Galilean fact. That's a 500-year-old fact. All right, rolling distance. Again, whose fault is it? You're claiming it's doing 4 times the work when it rolls 4 times the distance. Clearly, the argument can be made just from reasoning alone that there's less friction when you're moving faster. So obviously you have less contact with the ground. It's like an electrical conductor. You can understand if it's making less contact, less wattage can go into the ground. So obviously you can understand that. And the proof will just be to measure it. Just measure when it gets to half its speed. If it gets to half its speed at 3/4 down the track, well, then you know kinetic energy is nonsense. It tells you right there that friction isn't linear, that the higher your velocity, the lower your friction. The lower the contact you have with the ground. Because the force is pushing you the same amount of force in a huge amount of distance. The pressure per square inch is way down, because you only got 1 unit of force in the first 3/4 of the travel. I mean, these are real arguments, and he's overtly evading them. Okay, so I go over the history of the 2 theories. The denting clay, this is the Chardolay experiment. This is an experiment that's been done. The reasoning is just about the shape and how shapes affect how clay is going to be distorted. So what the hell does that not have to do with something reality? This one is the space theory, pointing out how, what are you saying? You're saying if I shoot the bullet out one side of the spaceship, it's going to have 2,000 joules. I shoot the gun out, the gun barrel leaves on the other side, that somehow my ship isn't going to turn. Well, momentum says it's not going to, but your kinetic energy says it sure as fuck should. I mean, how can you... The lever experiment, gears... These are things that we've known about for hundreds of years, and he's evading talking about these subjects. They're elemental kinematic subjects, and he's evading talking about them because he's saying somehow we can't talk about the experiments that have been done, the information that's out there, because there's not enough of it. The experiments somehow haven't been done. And whose fault is that again? Is that my fault? No, that's your physics fault. All right, negative momentum, yeah. So we shouldn't talk about where this was invented, this idea of the negative momentum. Okay, weight as energy. I mean, this one, again, another thing they never even thought about. The fact that, yes, I could duplicate your weight by giving you a velocity. So I can put a scale horizontally So he won't talk about this. He won't explain how what I'm going to say right now is wrong. Where the hell's my scale? I think I put it somewhere to keep it safe. All right. I put a scale horizontal, and then I take any mass in the world. It doesn't matter what it is. I move it at 1 mile an hour into the scale, and it will read its weight will be its mass. It will read its mass weight. So whether it's me going 1 mile an hour, or this battery, or anything, I take anything, move it 1 mile an hour, and it will read its weight without gravity. You know, instantaneous weight. It won't stay that weight. It'll just weigh that weight, and the spring will shoot it back out again. But that's what it'll weigh. Your physics doesn't care about that truth. You don't research, you don't care, you're not interested. You know, it's amazing. Just amazing that you really don't know that anything, I can drop anything from 1 centimeter high, and I can make it weigh twice as much on a scale. You don't care. You don't think it's an interesting subject? I mean, you're so full of shit. God. All right, we also had the ball bearing bounce, which is the more recent video. So, you know, undeniable that, you know, the ball bearings bouncing on an anvil 200 times. It's not pushing the earth 200 times. It's not moving the earth 200 times. All that crap isn't happening. The reason why the ball can bounce a second time is because it didn't get the energy used. The momentum wasn't used by anything. It was returned to the object. It's a pure reflection, period. All right. In your videos, 1, 3, 5, 8, and 10, are exactly this. A claim about what will happen according to your model. No, according to what any rational definition of physics is. What will happen. And they aren't assertions by me. They're questions asked. I mean, the spaceship one is a simple answer. Yes, I'm saying the bullet and the gun barrel have the same energy. They have the same ability to be thrust. They will produce the same effect on the spaceship. And you can't make some argument that one has 2,000 joules of working energy and the other one only has 2 joules of working energy. And somehow that doesn't matter. That somehow the space doesn't know that twice the energy, twice the kinetic energy, doesn't mean anything. How can twice the kinetic energy not mean anything? Because if I convert it into heat, you know damn well it's going to move the spaceship. If I convert the bullet into just 2,000 units of heat, and then the 2 units out the other side of heat, the ship will turn. So you're just afraid of dealing with these arguments because you can't rationally defend them. All right, with no backing data. So bullshit. There's examples in the videos of known facts, Newton's cradle kind of facts. So they can't be dismissed until you actually provide that data. So what an evasion. What a disgusting evasion. Number 2 and 3 are very old models of how gravity works. Yeah, that's right. The correct model, which is a time-dependent model. The model Galileo, Descartes, and Newton got right answers with. That's why they're famous, by the way, is because they got right answers. Okay, and how friction works to explain away results that you don't agree with. So again, more nonsense. There is no a result I explained away. So again, show your fucking result, you liar. Show where you've shown anywhere that it takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast, or 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. Show that happening anywhere. Show that it actually takes, when I roll a ball with twice the velocity on the ground, show me that it takes 4 times the work, that it did 4 times the work, that there was 4 times the force put into the ground. Where did you show that with any data, you liar? I mean, god damn it, how can you use this fucking data excuse when you have no data? None. No data proving it takes 4 times the fuel. No data proving it does 4 times the damage. No data proving that the thing rolling with twice the velocity on the goddamn ground that goes 4 times as further, that it actually did 4 times the work on the ground. Not a bit of real data. Fuck. You this is so dishonest. But your models for these have other properties. That frictional forces depend on speed, for instance. What a lie. It depends on time. Yes. The constant raining force. That's right. You're in a stream, like a river. Okay? It's how long you're in the river is going to decide how fast you're going to go. Which can be tested. Yeah, and where have you done that? Oh, you're just such a liar. Like you have tested this at all. So what is this? Oh, this is a fucking Ryan Gosling putting a fucking anvil on a cart. On a treadmill, for fuck's sake. And he's saying this has something to do with actually moving an object across a frictional surface. So instead of using the object having the velocity, the fucking ground has the velocity. And he says, oh yeah, if the ground has the velocity, that's the same as you having momentum. Oh, duh, no. Where is the constant force pushing the object? Okay, when I roll an object at twice the velocity, I have a point where it runs out of energy. That's what we're talking about, right? If it didn't run out of energy, it means I want taking it out piece by piece. Where in this experiment does that happen? There's no energy being pulled out of anything here. It's a constant velocity. It's a constant engine. It's like putting a jet behind the frickin' anvil and then saying, well, why doesn't it change? Because you have a jet engine on it, you fucking idiot. Oh, I can't believe you did this. This is so pathetic. Pathetic to link to this piece of steaming shit video. Pathetic. So this is what they do, right? You ask them to show you, oh, show me it taking 4 times the fuel, and they'll start talking about braking distance. Some completely different subject. I mean, they just won't stay on the subject. They won't come anywhere close to giving you a rational analogy. So he says that anvil on a treadmill proves that when a ball rolls twice the speed on the ground, that it does 4 times the work to the ground. That the ground felt 4 times the energy into the ground. That he demonstrated with this piece of shit video. Man, how dishonest. Ugh, I didn't see the Ryan Gosling here. God damn it. This is a guy who hid the fucking clay experiment, right? He did a simple experiment. Takes a weight, drops it on a hunk of goddamn clay. Then he takes half the mass and drops it from 4 times the height and drops it on the fucking clay. And because the results came exactly as I predicted, he won't show the experiment. This is the fucking guy this is your go-to guy. And I'm not supposed to call you anything else but a dishonest creep for bringing this shit up? Oh, fuck. And I have shown the model to be wrong. Oh, fuck you. You coward. Play the fucking 5-minute video and show where you've proven anything. Number 6 is a spring launching 2 masses, where you're correct that if both masses leave, it won't deflect the spaceship. Huh? Alright, it's a spring launching 2 masses, where you're correct that if both masses leave, it won't deflect the spaceship. Yo, who knows what he's saying here, right? What are you saying? Okay, but in order to generate the motion you describe, you need a certain amount of energy, which I demonstrate with the spring launching masses. So here again, his fake experiment where he creates any amount of momentum he wants. The same explosion can create any amount of momentum you want. You just change the weight of the object next to it, which again you simply deny. I don't simply deny it, I call it what it is, preposterous shit. Okay, I haven't seen 11 and 12, but the track record is underwhelming. Yeah, so fuck you. I mean, the track record of your physics is underwhelming, and you're just a new underwhelming example of the cheap, petty cowardice that your science shows. You have no guts. You have no integrity. Your science is being directly challenged, and you pay no fucking attention. I've pointed out the history of this stupid, idiotic theory. You don't care. All right, you just couldn't give a shit how bad the physics was. Okay, when Leibniz proposed this nonsense, and then when de Châtelet propagandized for it, all right, and there is some speculation that by the time she died, she actually didn't believe it anymore. Oh, I mean, it's disgusting. All right, well, maybe I'll just call this the video, and I'll get to this later. Yeah. All right. I believe you when you say that you are not clear on my claims. It's right here. Yeah, I'm saying you just ignored the whole 5-minute video talking about how thrust works in space and how it has absolutely nothing to do with kinetic energy. That kinetic energy will not tell you anything about how a spaceship moves. You have to know how much mass is it and how fast is it going, and that's all. There's no squared function that works when it comes to thrust in space. Fact. And a fact you won't answer, you won't play the frickin' video and respond to it and explain how I'm describing how thrust works incorrectly. Oh, you just, what a fucking weasel. Damn it. Play this game. These evasions. Alright, anyway. So we'll save the rest of it for tomorrow. Shit. There's 2 of it. There's another hunk down here. Oh, God damn it. I mean, it's amazing. Diaz can make claims, but in order for anyone to care, he needs to provide evidence. Where is your fucking evidence? Again, something as simple as, does it take 9 times the fucking fuel to go 3 times faster? That's what your fucking theory says. Is it or is it not true? Where's your evidence? Where will you show me the 8-pound bowling ball knocking down more pins? Where will you show me that video? And this, I might as well say it, right? The 4-pound ball knocking down 16 times more pins. Shit. You're just so dishonest. Damn it. I hate this fucking planet of fucking lying, weaselly fucking bastards. You know, with their fucking bullshit claims. Just bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Nobody talks anything close to a truth ever. It's just such a fake news, fake reality, fake physics, fake everything. Fucking goddamn world. God, humans suck.